The old Victorian house felt too big for one person. Dr. Marcus Chen walked through rooms that once held laughter and the smell of his grandmother's cooking. Now they held only dust and memories. The mission report sat on his desk, stamped with red letters that might as well have been a death sentence for humanity. Psychically incompatible. Marcus had led Earth's first diplomatic team to meet the ethereal consortium. 23 alien species working together across the galaxy. They were smart, powerful, and had technology that could solve every problem Earth faced. Clean energy, faster travel between stars, cures for diseases that still killed millions. All of it was waiting for humanity to prove they belonged in galactic civilization. Instead, the aliens had tested human minds and found them lacking. Too emotional, they said. Too attached to physical things and dead memories. The consortium feared that humans would drag down other species with their primitive thinking. Earth had 6 months to change their minds, or face permanent isolation from the stars. Marcus set down his coffee mug on his grandmother's kitchen table. The wood was worn smooth from decades of family meals. His grandmother had died 3 weeks before his mission launched. He never got to say goodbye. The aliens probably saw that attachment as weakness too. His laptop chimed with an email. The subject line made him pause. Domestic services available. Interstellar Employment Agency. Marcus almost deleted it as spam. But something made him click it open. The message was simple. Professional cleaning and household management services for busy professionals. Flexible schedules. Reasonable rates. Fully bonded employees from across known space. Marcus read it twice. An alien maid service. The irony was not lost on him. The house needed help. Marcus had been living on takeout and letting rooms gather dust while he buried himself in research. Maybe having someone else deal with the physical world would let him focus on finding a way to save humanity's future. He clicked the reply button before he could change his mind. 3 days later, Marcus barely looked up when the doorbell rang. He expected a small gray being with large eyes like he had seen on Kepler 442b. Instead, he found a woman who looked remarkably human standing on his porch. She wore simple work clothes and carried a modest cleaning supply bag. Dr. Chen. I am here about the housekeeping position. Her voice had a slight accent he could not place. Something musical about the way she shaped words. Right, yes. Come in. Marcus stepped aside, still distracted by the equations filling his head. I should warn you. I work from home. Research. I might not be very social. The woman smiled. I understand. I am Zara. I prefer quiet work environments. Marcus led her through the first floor, pointing out rooms in a distracted way. Kitchen, dining room, living room. There are 4 bedrooms upstairs, but I only use one. My grandmother lived here for 60 years, so there is a lot of stuff. Zara stopped in the living room, looking at the family photos covering the mantel. She was important to you. It was not a question. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Very. She raised me after my parents died. This was her house. Her life. And now it is yours. I guess. I do not really know what to do with it all. I kept thinking I would ask her advice. But he trailed off. Realizing he was sharing too much with a stranger, Zara moved to the window and adjusted the curtains, letting in more light. Somehow, the simple action made the room feel warmer. Sometimes the best way to honor the past is to make space for the future. Marcus looked at her more carefully. There was something unusual about Zara that he could not identify. She moved with a grace that seemed too perfect. Her skin had a faint glow that could have been good health or something else. Most strange was how comfortable she made him feel in his own home. When can you start? He asked. I can begin today, if you wish. I find that homes speak to me about what they need. Marcus almost laughed at that, but something in her tone stopped him. Homes speak to you? All things have stories, Dr. Chen. Your house has many stories. I can hear them in the way light falls through old glass, in the settling of wood that has held generations of dreams. It wants to live again. He stared at her for a long moment. Most people would think that sounded crazy. But Marcus had spent his career studying dead civilizations. He knew that objects could hold memories. The pay is not great. Most of my funding got cut after the mission failed. Money is not why I am here. Then why are you here? Zara touched the family photo on the nearest table. In the picture, a young Marcus sat next to his grandmother in this same living room. Both were smiling. Because some houses should not be empty. Some stories should not end. Marcus felt something unlock in his chest. For the first time in months, the house did not feel like a tomb. The job is yours, if you want it. Thank you. Zara picked up her cleaning supplies. I will start with the kitchen. Kitchens are the heart of any home. As she worked, Marcus tried to return to his research, but he kept getting distracted by sounds from the kitchen. Not just cleaning sounds, but something else. Humming, maybe, though no melody he recognized. After an hour, the smell of bread began to drift through the house. Marcus walked to the kitchen doorway and stopped. Zara stood at the counter, mixing something in a bowl that had not been used since his grandmother's death. The kitchen looked cleaner than it had in months, but more than that, it felt alive again. I hope you do not mind, Zara said without turning around. I found ingredients and thought you might be hungry for something real. The smell was exactly like his grandmother's bread, exactly like childhood Sunday mornings and feeling safe in the world. Marcus felt his eyes burn with tears he had been holding back for weeks. How did you know her recipe? Zara finally turned to face him, and for just a moment, Marcus thought he saw starlight in her eyes. Some knowledge comes from listening carefully. As the bread baked, Marcus found himself talking to Zara about his grandmother, his failed mission, and his fears for humanity's future. She listened without judgment and asked questions that made him think. For the first time since returning to Earth, Marcus felt like someone understood not just his words, but the weight behind them. When Zara left that evening, she promised to return the next day. Marcus stood in his kitchen, eating warm bread and watching sunset light fill rooms that no longer felt empty. He did not yet understand what was happening, but something had changed. His house was becoming a home again. Zara arrived every morning at exactly 8 o'clock. Marcus began to look forward to her quiet presence moving through the house while he worked. She never interrupted his research, but somehow the space around him felt calmer when she was there. The house was transforming from a place of grief into something that felt like home again. On the 4th day, Marcus noticed the first impossible thing. He was working in his study when he smelled his grandmother's famous chocolate chip cookies. Not just any chocolate chip cookies, but the exact recipe that had taken his grandmother 40 years to perfect. The one she never wrote down because she said the secret was in feeling the dough, not following numbers. Marcus walked to the kitchen and found Zara pulling a perfect batch from the oven. The cookies looked exactly like his memories. Golden brown with edges that would be crispy while the centers stayed soft. Where did you get her recipe? Marcus asked. Zara turned from the counter, flour dusting her simple work dress. I found ingredients and thought you might enjoy them. Was I wrong? No, it's just... Marcus picked up a cookie and bit into it. The taste transported him instantly to childhood afternoons, when his grandmother would have a batch cooling just as he walked home from school. This is impossible. She never told anyone how to make these exactly right. Perhaps the kitchen remembered. Zara began cleaning the mixing bowls with movements that seemed almost like dancing. Houses hold on to the love that fills them. Marcus wanted to argue, to demand a rational explanation, but the cookie in his hand tasted like pure memory. He watched Zara work and noticed other strange things. She never seemed to get truly dirty despite cleaning all day. Dust settled away from her as if it did not want to touch her, and sometimes, when light hit her just right, her skin seemed to shimmer with colors that did not exist. The next week brought stranger observations. Marcus found her in the library, carefully dusting books written in languages that had been dead for thousands of years. She handled each volume with the care of someone who understood their value, not just their price. You read ancient Mesopotamian? Marcus asked, watching her examine a tablet he had found on an archaeological dig years ago. I find old languages beautiful. They hold thoughts that newer words cannot express. Zara set the tablet down gently. This one speaks of longing for home. 8. Marcus looked at the cuneiform writing he had translated just last month. It was indeed a poem about missing one's homeland, written by a soldier far from everything he loved. How could you know that? The same way you know. By listening to what it wants to say. But Marcus had spent weeks with dictionaries and reference books to understand those markings. Zara had glanced at it for seconds. The really impossible thing happened on a Tuesday morning. Marcus was struggling with equations that might prove human consciousness could adapt to galactic communication standards. His coffee had gone cold, and his head was pounding from staring at symbols that seemed to shift every time he looked away. Zara appeared beside his desk with fresh coffee and a small plate of toast cut into perfect triangles, just like his grandmother used to make when he was sick. As she set the plate down, her hand brushed against his papers. For just a moment, the equations seemed to glow with soft light. When Marcus blinked, the solution was clear in his mind. "Thank you," he said automatically, then stopped. "You look tired. Food helps with thinking." Zara smiled and moved toward the door, but Marcus caught her arm. Her skin was warm but felt like touching sunlight. Not hot, but full of energy that made his fingers tingle. "What are you?" The question came out without permission. Zara looked at his hand on her arm, then met his eyes. For a moment, Marcus saw something vast and ancient looking back at him, stars being born, worlds spinning through space, time moving like a river that flowed both ways. Then she blinked, and was just Zara again. "I am someone who cleans houses," she said simply. "That is not an answer. It is the only answer that matters right now." Marcus released her arm but did not step back. "No alien employment agency sent you, did they? Would it change how you feel about the work I do here?" The honest answer was no. Zara had brought his grandmother's house back to life. She had given him space to think and hope again. Whatever she was helping him save humanity's future. But Marcus was a scientist. He needed to understand. "You are not human," he said. "No, I am not. You are not from Earth." "No. Are you from the consortium?" For the first time since he had known her, Zara hesitated. "I am. Older than the consortium. Much older." Marcus felt his heart race. "How much older?" "My people were exploring the galaxy when yours were just learning to make fire." Zara moved to the window and looked out at the garden his grandmother had planted decades ago. "We have been watching your species develop." "You are. Interesting." "Interesting how?" "Most species grow beyond the need for physical forms when they become advanced enough. They leave behind attachment to places and objects. They stop feeling so deeply about things that do not last forever." Zara turned back to him. "Humans refuse to do this. You cling to temporary things as if they were eternal. The consortium finds this disturbing, but you do not? I find it fascinating." Zara picked up a photo of Marcus and his grandmother from his desk. "Your grandmother died. But you keep her memory alive through objects she touched. You feel pain over her loss even though you know death is natural. Most advanced species would see this as primitive thinking. And you? I think your grandmother lives on in ways my people lost long ago. In the taste of her recipes. In the love that built this house. In the way you honor her by maintaining what she cared about." Zara set the photo down carefully. "We stopped understanding that kind of connection millions of years ago. We gained power over matter and energy. But we lost something your species never let go." Marcus sank into his chair, mind reeling. "If your people are so advanced, why are you here? Why are you cleaning my house?" Zara smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like the simple woman who had answered his ad for a maid. "Because I wanted to understand what makes humans refuse to grow beyond love. Because I was curious about people who choose connection over perfection." She paused. "And because your house needed someone who understood that homes are built from memory as much as wood and stone. How advanced are your people exactly?" "Advanced enough that the consortium considers us gods. Advanced enough that my being here, in physical form, speaking to you like an equal, would shock every species in the galaxy." Zara began gathering her cleaning supplies. "But not advanced enough to understand why you keep your grandmother's favorite mug even though it has a crack in it." Marcus looked at the chipped blue mug sitting by his computer. His grandmother had drunk coffee from it every morning for 20 years. He could have thrown it away or bought a perfect replacement, but the crack was part of its story, part of her story. Will you tell the consortium that humans are not ready? I will tell them what I learn about your species. Nothing more, nothing less. I think they are asking the wrong questions about humanity. They want to know if you can become like them. Perhaps they should ask if they can remember how to become like you. After she left, Marcus sat alone in his study, surrounded by his grandmother's books and furniture. For the first time since his mission failed, he wondered if humanity's greatest weakness might actually be their greatest strength. And for the first time since meeting Zara, he wondered what it would mean to lose her when her investigation was complete. Marcus could not concentrate on his research anymore. Every time Zara cleaned a room, impossible things happened. Flowers that should have died weeks ago bloomed fresh in vases. Scratches disappeared from wooden furniture. The house itself seemed to be healing under her touch. He started following her around, pretending to work in whatever room she was cleaning. Zara never complained about his hovering, but he caught her smiling sometimes when she thought he was not looking. On Thursday morning, Marcus watched Zara dust his grandmother's china cabinet. Each plate and cup was precious, bought one piece at a time over decades of careful saving. As Zara's cloth touched each item, tiny cracks vanished. Chips filled themselves in, colors became bright again. "Stop," Marcus said. Zara paused, still holding a teacup that had been broken and glued together years ago. Now it was perfect, as if it had never been damaged. "You are not just cleaning, you are changing things at the molecular level." Marcus stepped closer. "That requires technology so advanced that even the consortium does not have it. Perhaps I am just very good at my job." "No one is that good." Marcus took the cup from her hands. It was warm and felt alive somehow. "What are you really?" Zara set down her cleaning cloth and looked directly at him. "I told you. I am older than the consortium." "How much older?" "My people were already ancient when the first consortium species developed language. We have watched 1,000 civilizations rise and fall. We guided some of them, ignored others, and learned from all of them." Marcus felt his knees go weak. "You are saying you are from a race of gods? The younger species call us that. We call ourselves the Luminari. We were the first to leave physical bodies behind and exist as pure consciousness. We can create matter, manipulate energy, travel instantly across the galaxy." Zara picked up another cup and began polishing it, even though it was already perfect. "But we lost something in our advancement. We can make anything, but we no longer treasure anything." "Then why are you here? Why take physical form to clean house for a failed diplomat?" "Because your species fascinates me. Humans are the first race we have found that becomes more attached to physical things as they grow more intelligent, not less. You create meaning through objects and places in ways we had forgotten were possible." Zara moved to the window and adjusted the curtains. As her hands touched the fabric, Marcus could swear he heard his grandmother's voice humming softly. "My people exist in perfect crystal cities that float between stars. We can think any food into existence, create any entertainment, travel anywhere in the universe instantly, but we have not felt wonder in a million years. We do not mourn our dead because we do not truly die. We do not miss our homes because everywhere is the same to us." She turned back to Marcus. "But you keep your grandmother's broken teacup because it holds memories of quiet mornings and shared conversations. You maintain this house not because you need shelter, but because it connects you to love that transcends death. You choose to feel pain over loss because the alternative is feeling nothing at all." Marcus sank into his grandmother's favorite chair. "The consortium thinks that makes us primitive. The consortium is afraid of you." Zara sat on the couch across from him, her divine nature somehow making her seem more human, not less. Most species evolve toward efficiency. They discard emotional bonds as wasteful. They value logic over love, perfection over connection. Then they meet humans who grow more emotional as you become more intelligent, who love harder as you learn more, who choose temporary joy over eternal comfort. And that scares them? It terrifies them. Because if humans can maintain emotional bonds while becoming spacefaring, if you can love across species boundaries, if you can turn any place into home through care and memory, then everything they believe about advancement is wrong. Marcus looked around his grandmother's living room. Every object told a story. The worn armchair, where she read bedtime stories. The lamp she bought for their first apartment. The photos tracking decades of birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesday dinners that became precious through repetition. Is that why you are here? To decide if we are too dangerous? I am here because I wanted to understand how humans transform houses into homes, how you create meaning from memory, how you choose love, even when it hurts. Zara stood and moved toward him. My people can build anything, but we have forgotten how to make something matter. And what have you learned? That watching you care for your grandmother's belongings teaches me more about the nature of existence than a million years of pure thought. That the way you smile when you taste her recipes shows me what my people lost when we abandoned physical forms. That your grief over her death contains more truth about life than all our philosophy. Marcus felt heat building between them. Not just physical attraction, though that was there too. Something deeper. Recognition across impossible differences. The consortium's deadline is in 2 months, he said. I know. Will you help humanity pass their test? Zara was quiet for a long moment. The test is wrong, Marcus. They want to know if humans can become like them. But the real question is whether they can remember how to become like you. That is not an answer. It is the only answer I can give right now. Zara moved closer until she was standing directly in front of his chair. My people do not understand physical attraction. We lost the ability to form emotional bonds eons ago. Being near you teaches me why humans fight so hard to keep both. Marcus stood so they were facing each other, close enough to touch. What happens when your investigation is complete? I return to my people and report what I have learned. And then I must choose between the immortal existence I have known for millions of years and something I have just discovered might be worth giving up everything to keep. Before Marcus could ask what she meant, Zara reached up and touched his face. Her hand still felt like concentrated starlight. But now it also felt like coming home. The consortium observers arrive next week, she said softly. They will want to test human emotional stability, your ability to form cross-species bonds, your commitment to physical existence over pure thought. Can we pass? That depends on whether you are willing to prove that love can exist between beings separated by millions of years of evolution. Marcus understood. The test was not about humanity's ability to join galactic civilization. It was about whether love could bridge any gap, connect any two minds, transform any space into home. Are you asking me to fall in love with you to save my species? Zara smiled, and for the first time since he had known her, she looked uncertain. I am asking if you already have. Marcus reached up and covered her hand with his. I think I started falling in love with you the moment you made my grandmother's bread recipe perfectly without ever learning how. And I began to understand love the first time I saw you. Grieve for someone who was gone but not forgotten. When they kissed, Marcus felt starlight enter his veins. But more than that, he felt two minds that should have been impossible to connect, finding perfect harmony. Human stubbornness meeting divine wisdom, mortal love embracing immortal understanding. When they broke apart, Zara whispered, 1 week, Marcus. 1 week to prove that what we have found together can save both our species from the emptiness of perfection. Outside, evening shadows grew long across the garden his grandmother had planted. Inside, two beings from different worlds discovered that home was not a place at all, but a connection that could transform the entire universe. The week that followed changed everything Marcus thought he knew about love, humanity, and the universe itself. Zara stopped pretending to be just a maid. She moved through his house like the goddess she was, but somehow her divine nature only made their connection feel more real. Not less. She taught him things about his own species that amazed him. When they cooked together, she showed him how humans instinctively turned the simple act of preparing food into ritual, memory, and love. When they gardened, she helped him understand how humans did not just tend plants, but created living art, that changed with seasons and years. Your grandmother planted these roses 60 years ago, Zara said as they worked in the backyard. She chose varieties that would bloom from spring through fall, so there would always be beauty outside your bedroom window. Marcus looked up at his childhood bedroom window, then at the roses that still bloomed faithfully every year. She planned for decades of happiness, even though she knew she would not live to see all of it. That is what my people cannot understand. Humans create beauty for people not yet born, maintain traditions for generations not yet imagined, build love that transcends your own short lives. Zara's hands glowed softly as she touched a struggling rose bush. Under her care, it straightened and burst with new blooms. We can live forever, but you live for forever. At night, they lay together in his grandmother's house, and Marcus learned what it meant to love someone whose mind contained the memories of entire civilizations. Zara shared visions of worlds beyond imagination, but she was more fascinated by his stories of family dinners and childhood Christmas mornings. "Show me more," she would whisper, and Marcus would tell her about his grandmother teaching him to bake, about scraped knees kissed better, about the way she would hum while washing dishes. Simple, human moments that Zara absorbed like someone dying of thirst finally finding water. In return, she helped him understand his research in ways that advanced his work by centuries. Not by giving him alien technology, but by helping him see human consciousness from a cosmic perspective. Human minds are not primitive, she explained as they worked on his equations together. They are uniquely designed for connection. Most species develop telepathic abilities that create hive minds. Humans develop empathy that allows you to understand beings completely unlike yourselves while remaining individuals. The consortium sees that as a weakness. The consortium fears it because they have never encountered a species that could love them as they truly are, rather than simply submitting to their authority. Zara's finger traced mathematical symbols that seemed to write themselves in golden light. You do not just tolerate diversity. You celebrate it. You find beauty in differences that other species try to eliminate. Marcus watched the equations solve themselves under her touch. Is that why they are really testing us? They need to know if humans can form genuine emotional bonds with aliens, or if you are just good at pretending. If your empathy is real, it threatens everything they believe about the necessity of conformity for galactic civilization. And what happens if we pass? Then they must face the possibility that love, not logic, might be the highest form of advancement. Zara turned to face him. And what happens if we fail? Humanity gets cut off from the stars forever, and I lose the only being in the universe who has taught me that immortality means nothing without someone to share it with. 3 days before the consortium observers were due to arrive, Marcus found Zara in his grandmother's kitchen, crying. It was the first time he had seen her show such purely human emotion. Her tears looked like liquid starlight. What is wrong? He sat beside her at the kitchen table, where his grandmother had served thousands of meals. My people know I am here. They are not pleased. What does that mean? It means they believe I have been contaminated by human emotion. They want me to return to pure consciousness immediately, before I am damaged beyond repair. Marcus felt his heart stop. Are you going? That is what I should do. What any rational member of my species would do. Zara looked around the kitchen that had become their sanctuary. But I find I do not want to be rational anymore. I want to stay here with you. In this house full of memories. Cooking food that will not last. Loving someone whose life is shorter than a single breath in my people's existence. Then stay. It is not that simple. If I choose to remain in physical form, to keep these emotions I have learned from you, I can never go back. I will become mortal. I will age and die just like any human. The weight of what she was offering hit Marcus like a physical blow. You would give up immortality for me? I would give up immortality for the chance to live a real life instead of just existing forever. Zara took his hands. But that choice could destroy both our species. The consortium will see it as proof that humans corrupt everything they touch. My people will see it as evidence that physical existence is a disease that must be contained. Then we make sure they see something else. What? Marcus stood and pulled her into his arms. We show them that love is not weakness or corruption. We prove that the connection we have found is not about me dragging you down to my level, but about both of us reaching something higher together. The consortium observers arrived on a Tuesday morning, just as Zara was finishing making breakfast. Marcus had expected something dramatic, but they simply appeared in his living room, like shadows taking form. 3 beings representing different species, all of them radiating the kind of cold intelligence that had intimidated him during his first mission. The leader was one of the ethereals who had rejected humanity before. Its mental voice echoed in Marcus's head like ice cracking. Dr. Chen. We have come to complete our evaluation of human suitability for galactic civilization. We understand you have been cohabitating with an unauthorized alien presence. I have been learning about humanity from Dr. Chen, Zara said, entering the room with a tray of coffee and his grandmother's cookies. I hope you do not mind. I brought refreshments. The observers recoiled slightly as Zara set down the tray with casual grace. Marcus could tell they recognized what she was, and they were terrified. Luminari do not take physical form, the ethereal stated. Luminari do not engage in emotional bonding with primitive species. Your behavior is unprecedented. Many things about humans are unprecedented. Zara poured coffee into his grandmother's best cups, the ones with tiny roses painted around the rim. Perhaps that should make you curious rather than afraid. The second observer, a crystalline being from the Beta Rigel system, spoke in harmonic tones. This corruption proves our assessment was correct. Humans infect other species with their emotional instability. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest, but Zara touched his arm gently. I was not infected, she said calmly. I was healed. Healed of what? The third observer demanded. Of the emptiness of perfection. Zara sat next to Marcus and took his hand without shame or hesitation. For millions of years, my people have existed without wonder, without growth, without the possibility of discovery. We became so advanced that we forgot what it felt like to learn something new. She gestured around the living room filled with his grandmother's treasures. Marcus taught me that objects become precious through the love invested in them. That homes are built from memory as much as material. That choosing to grieve for the dead means choosing to celebrate life. These are primitive concepts, the ethereal dismissed. These are concepts that create meaning. Zara stood, and for a moment, her divine nature blazed around her like a star going nova. You want to know if humans can join galactic civilization? The question you should ask is whether galactic civilization is ready to remember what it has lost. Marcus rose beside her, and together they faced the 3 most powerful beings in known space. We are not asking to be like you, he said. We are offering to show you how to be like yourselves again. Before you forgot that existence without love is just an elaborate form of death. The observers looked at each other, communicating in ways too fast for human comprehension. When they turned back, Marcus could see something new in their ancient faces. Fear. But also, for the first time, hope. The silence stretched across his grandmother's living room like a held breath. 3 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy stared at a human scientist and a goddess who had chosen to love him. Marcus could feel the weight of his entire species' future balanced on this moment. The ethereal observer spoke first, its mental voice colder than deep space. You claim that human emotional attachment is beneficial rather than corrupting. Prove it. Before Marcus could respond, Zara stepped forward. What happened next would be remembered across the galaxy for millennia. I choose mortality. The words fell into the room like stones into still water, creating ripples that would eventually reach every star system in known space. The observers recoiled as if she had struck them. Impossible, the crystalline being chimed. No luminary has ever chosen physical death over eternal consciousness. No luminary has ever learned what I have learned. Zara's divine light began to shift, becoming warmer, more golden, more human. I renounce my immortal existence. I choose to live and die as mortals do. I choose to experience time as a river that flows only forward, to treasure moments because they will not last forever, to love with the desperate intensity of someone who knows that everything precious can be lost. Marcus felt the change in her instantly. The vast cosmic awareness that had always surrounded her began to fade, replaced by something smaller but infinitely more precious. The mind of someone choosing to be fully present in a single moment, in a single lifetime, with a single person who mattered more than eternity. Why? The ethereal's mental voice cracked with something that might have been anguish. Why would you choose limitation over limitlessness? Zara took Marcus's hand, and her touch was still warm but now perfectly, completely human. Because limitlessness without meaning is just another word for emptiness. Because a single lifetime shared with someone you love contains more joy than 1,000,000 years of solitary perfection. She looked around the living room where they had discovered love together. Marcus showed me that humans do not just accept death as the price of life. You embrace it as what makes life worth living. You create beauty knowing it will fade. You love knowing it will hurt. You build knowing it will crumble. And somehow, that makes everything you create more precious, not less. The third observer, a being of pure energy that rarely took solid form, flickered with confusion. But you could have had anything. Power to reshape galaxies. Knowledge of every secret in the universe. Existence beyond the reach of time, or pain or loss. I have something better. Zara smiled at Marcus. And in that smile was every morning they would share. Every sunset they would watch together. Every ordinary Tuesday that would become extraordinary simply because they would face it side by side. I have someone worth giving up everything for. And I have learned that choosing love over power is not surrender. It is the highest form of evolution. The ethereal turned its attention to Marcus. And you? Do you understand what she has sacrificed for your species? Marcus felt the weight of the moment, but also the strange lightness of absolute certainty. I understand that she has not sacrificed anything. She has gained the only thing in the universe that your advanced civilizations never figured out how to create. A reason to wake up each morning and be grateful to be alive. You would bind her to mortality, to the pain of aging and death. I would share mortality with her. And in return, she will teach me what it means to love someone so completely that a human lifetime becomes long enough to contain infinity. The observers exchanged communications too fast for human understanding. Marcus could sense their worldview cracking like ice in spring. Everything they believed about the necessary progression from emotion to pure logic, from attachment to transcendence, from physical existence to cosmic consciousness, was being challenged by the sight of the most advanced being in known space, choosing to become beautifully, completely, gloriously limited. Finally, the ethereal spoke again. The consortium must decide. Is humanity a corruption to be contained, or a teacher we have been too proud to learn from? Over the next 3 days, representatives from every species in the consortium arrived at Marcus's house. They came expecting to conduct a formal evaluation of human worthiness. Instead, they found themselves drawn into something unprecedented in galactic history. Zara and Marcus simply lived their lives. They cooked breakfast together, tended the garden, read books aloud in the evenings, and talked about plans for a future neither of them could fully predict. The alien observers watched in fascination as two beings from impossibly different origins created something entirely new together. The breakthrough came when the youngest observer, a being from a species that had only recently achieved space travel, asked to help with dinner preparation. I do not understand the purpose of this ritual, it said, watching Marcus and Zara work together to prepare a meal that would be consumed in minutes. The purpose is not the food, Marcus explained, teaching the being how to knead bread dough. The purpose is the sharing. The time spent together, the care put into making something that will nourish someone you love, but it will not last. That is exactly why it matters. Zara showed the being how to taste the soup they were making, adjusting seasonings until it was perfect. If this meal lasted forever, we would stop noticing how good it is. Because it will be gone in an hour, we pay attention to every bite. By the end of the week, 7 different species were learning to cook human food, plant earth flowers, and tell stories about their own homes and histories. The act of creating temporary beauty together had accomplished more diplomatic breakthrough than centuries of formal negotiations. The final judgment came not from the consortium leadership, but from their own observers, who had experienced something none of them expected. The report they filed would become one of the most important documents in galactic history. Humans do not need to become like us, the ethereal observer concluded in its formal recommendation. We need to remember how to become like them. Their emotional bonds do not make them weak. They make them capable of connections that transcend every barrier we have used to divide the galaxy. The decision was unanimous. Humanity was not just accepted into galactic civilization. Earth became the first emotional embassy, a place where species across the galaxy could come to learn what they had lost in their rush toward perfection. Marcus found himself appointed as the first ambassador of human connection, tasked with teaching other species what he and Zara had discovered together. That love was not a primitive weakness to be overcome, but an advanced technology for creating meaning in an infinite universe. 6 months later, as spring returned to his grandmother's garden, Marcus stood with Zara among the roses that bloomed faithfully every year. She was fully human now, with silver beginning to thread through her hair and laugh lines forming around her eyes. She had never been more beautiful. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked, watching her tend flowers that would bloom for a season, and then sleep until spring called them back to life. "How can I regret choosing the one thing in the universe that makes everything else matter?" Zara straightened and kissed him softly. Besides, immortality was never about living forever. It was about never learning to live at all. Around them, the house his grandmother had built with love and maintained with care sheltered a love that had changed the galaxy. Inside, alien students from a dozen worlds were learning to cook human food, sharing stories of home, and discovering that the secret to advancement was not leaving emotion behind, but learning to love more deeply than they had ever dared. As the sun set over a garden planted by one generation and tended by the next, Marcus understood what his grandmother had always known. Home was not a place you found. It was something you built, day by day, choice by choice, with someone worth sharing everything for. And in a universe full of wonders, love remained the most miraculous discovery of all. The house was no longer empty. It never would be again.